Have you ever wondered why some questions slip past resistance, bypass barriers, and land directly in the unconscious mind, creating shifts so profound they feel like they're always there? And isn't it fascinating how, when the right question is asked, something inside you just knows the answer, even before words form? Because, as you already realise, the mind isn't logical. It's pattern-seeking. It's story-driven. It's shaped by questions, especially the ones it doesn't even realise it's answering. So what happens when you begin to ask the kind of questions that shape reality itself? Imagine someone tells you, believe this. You resist, of course. Of course you do. Because control from the outside, it creates pushback from within. But what if instead you hear, how do you know what's possible? What if the way you've been thinking about this has been incomplete? Who would you be if you saw this differently? See how the mind leans in, how it searches for an answer, how it begins filling in gaps, in the way it chooses, and yet it isn't choosing at all. Because questions don't demand, they invite. And invitations, they're irresistible. So what happens when you start crafting questions that guide, shape, and install new ways of seeing, feeling, and responding? What happens when every conversation becomes a series of invisible, elegant steps towards a new belief? So natural, so seamless, that change just feels inevitable. And what if, right now, you've already begun noticing how easily you can do this? Because the truth is, you already know how powerful the right questions can be. You felt it before. That moment when someone asked something so profound, it changed everything. And now, isn't it exciting to realise you're about to start asking those kind of questions too? Because as you listen to these words, you may begin to wonder, how deeply can a simple question reach? Because the moment a question enters the mind, something fascinating happens, doesn't it? A search begins, a pattern forms, a connection clicks into place. And have you noticed how, when the right question is asked, your mind has to answer? It can't help but explore the possibilities, rearrange perspectives, create meaning effortlessly. So isn't it interesting that persuasion, it isn't about telling, it's about allowing. Because people, they don't resist their own conclusions. And what if you could guide those conclusions invisibly, naturally, irresistibly? Not by pushing, not by forcing, but by shaping perceptions from within. Because after all, what if the way someone sees the world isn't just a story that they tell themselves? And what if every belief, every limitation, every resistance is just a question waiting to be asked differently? Because when a mind believes something, it feels real. But what happens when you introduce a new frame? So elegantly, so smoothly, the old way of thinking simply dissolves. Have you ever wondered what makes a belief stick? It's not logic, it's not facts, it's meaning. And meaning is created in the space between words, in the pauses, in the implications, in the questions that don't just ask for an answer, but demand a shift in perspective. Because when someone believes they're limited, they act limited. But what happens when you ask, how do you know that's true? What would it feel like to discover it never was? And if it wasn't true, what else becomes possible? See how the mind moves. Notice how the shift has already begun. Because the moment a belief is questioned, the foundation begins to shake. And when that happens, new possibilities emerge. And the more you notice this, the more you realise you've always known how to do this. Because influence, it isn't about control. It's about choice. And now, as you begin to wonder just how natural this ability has always been within you, you might just find yourself using it before you even realise that it's happening.